Why do 95% of people fail to achieve what they want in life, while a rare 5% seem to rise to the top, no matter the obstacle, no matter the time, no matter the circumstances? That question has haunted me for years, and today I want to speak directly to you about it. Because it's not just an abstract riddle, it's the key to your future. Most people will never think deeply about this question at all. They will wake up each day, go through the motions, react to what happens to them, complain about bad luck or unfair breaks, and then go to sleep to do it all again tomorrow. They will move through life like driftwood on a river, pushed and pulled by forces they claim they can't control. But you don't have to be among them. You see, the difference between the 5% and the 95% isn't raw talent. It isn't education or privilege or luck. It is simply this: the 5% decide. They make a choice. They say, I will take responsibility for my life. And they mean it. They don't wait for someone to give them permission to succeed. They don't wait for perfect conditions. They don't wait for motivation to strike. They decide, and they act. Before we go any further, I want you to do something simple but important. If you're listening to this and you want to be in that rare 5%, if you want to see these ideas reach more people who are ready to change, take a moment to like and subscribe. It's a small act, but it's an act of intention, a declaration that you're not just a passive observer of life, but someone willing to take even the smallest steps in the right direction. Now let's continue. Why is this decision so rare? Why don't more people make it? It's because responsibility is heavy. It is far easier to blame. It is far easier to look out at the world and say, if only I had what they had. If only things were fair. If only someone would help me. The truth is that no one is coming to save you. The world will give you opportunity, but it will not force you to take it. It will not drag you to your best self. That work is yours and yours alone. I remember once asking a successful man what he thought separated him from everyone else. He paused for a moment, then said, "It wasn't that I was smarter or more talented, it was that I finally stopped lying to myself about why I hadn't yet succeeded." He stopped blaming circumstances. He stopped blaming the economy. He stopped blaming his childhood, his teachers, his boss. He realized it was up to him. And once he owned that, things changed. You see, there is a fundamental law at work in our lives. We become what we think about. If you spend your days thinking about problems, you will become an expert in problems. If you think about obstacles, you will find more obstacles. But if you think about solutions, you will find solutions. If you think about growth, you will find ways to grow. The mind is like fertile soil. It doesn't care what you plant. Plant weeds and you get weeds. Plant corn and you get corn. So what are you planting each day? What thoughts do you entertain? What ideas do you dwell on? Most people never ask themselves these questions. They think they are victims of their own thoughts. But you are not. You choose what you focus on. You choose what you believe. And your life reflects those choices. Let's consider this. At age 25, nearly everyone believes they will be successful. Ask any young person and they'll say they want to do well, to be happy, to provide for their family, to live with purpose. But by 65, what happens? The numbers are shocking. Out of 100 people who start even at 25, only 5 will be financially independent. 1 will be rich. 4 will be comfortable. And the other 95, they will still be working, they will be broke, or they will be dependent on others for survival. Now ask yourself, why? Did they plan to fail? Of course not. But they failed to plan. They failed to set a clear goal. They failed to take responsibility for their thinking. They let life happen to them instead of directing their life. Success, real success, is never accidental. It is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. That means knowing what you want, defining it clearly, and moving toward it every single day. If a man says, I want to be a teacher, and he teaches, he is a success. If a woman says, I want to raise a family, and she does it with love and intention, she is a success. If someone wants to build a business and they do it honestly and with excellence, they are a success. The problem is most people never make that decision. They drift. They conform. They do what everyone else is doing, never asking why, never daring to be different. They think success is for the lucky few, not realizing it is for the intentional few. Let me give you an analogy. Imagine 2 ships leaving a harbor. One has a captain and a crew who know exactly where they're going. They have a map, they have a plan. They know how long it will take and what route they will follow. Barring disaster, they will get there. Now imagine the second ship. It has no captain, no crew, no map, No destination? They just start the engines and let it drift. What do you think will happen to that ship? It will end up wrecked on some deserted beach or sink or wander aimlessly until it runs out of fuel. This is exactly how most people live, without a goal, without a plan, without direction. If you want to be among the 5%, you must become your own captain. You must take the wheel of your life. You must decide where you want to go and chart a course to get there. It will not happen by accident. It will not happen by luck. It will happen because you made a clear decision and you acted on it. This is the first and greatest secret of the successful minority. They know where they are going. Now, if you're listening to this, I want you to stop and really ask yourself, do I know where I'm going? Do I have a clear goal? Is it written down? Do I read it every day? Do I act on it every day? If you cannot answer yes to those questions, then it's time to change. It's time to decide. Because here is another law of life. You will get exactly what you settle for. If you settle for drifting, you will drift. If you settle for mediocrity, you will get mediocrity. But if you settle for excellence, if you demand it from yourself, you will move in that direction. You may not get there overnight, but you will get there. This is not a promise of ease. Nothing worth having is easy, but it is a promise of possibility. You can change your life by changing your mind. You can change your results by changing your daily habits. You can change your future by deciding today that you will no longer be part of the 95% who simply let life happen to them. Instead, you will join the 5% who make life happen. The choice is yours. Most people believe that their circumstances define them. They look at their surroundings, their upbringing, their past mistakes, and they say, "This is who I am. This is all I'll ever be." But that is a lie. It is one of the most damaging beliefs a person can hold. The truth is, circumstances reveal who you are only if you let them. They are not destiny, they are not fixed. They are the raw material you have to work with, and what you create from them is up to you. Consider the difference between two people who face the same challenge. One says, "This is too hard, I'll never make it," and quits before he even begins. The other says, "This is hard, but it's not impossible. I'll find a way," and keeps moving forward. The challenge is the same. The difference is the response, and that difference in response is what separates failure from success, defeat from victory. You see, the external world is a mirror. It reflects back to us what we project. If you see problems everywhere, if you believe the world is unfair, if you think there's no point in trying, then your life will prove you right. You will find problems, unfairness, and reasons to give up. But if you see opportunity, if you believe you have power over your choices, if you think there is a way forward no matter what, then your life will prove you right as well. You become what you think about. That is not just a nice phrase to put on a poster. It is a law of life. It is as real as gravity. You may not see it immediately. Just as a seed does not become a tree in a day, your thoughts will not transform your life overnight. But they will, over time, consistently, predictably. Because the mind is always working, always creating, always shaping the world you experience. Ask yourself, what am I feeding my mind? What am I allowing in? For most people, it is fear, doubt, negativity, gossip, distractions. They spend hours watching things that do not help them grow. They talk about problems without ever searching for solutions. They complain about what is wrong without taking even the smallest step to make it right. And then they wonder why they feel stuck, why they feel powerless, why nothing changes. If you want to join the 5%, you must guard your mind like a fortress. You would not allow thieves into your home. Why would you allow them into your thoughts? You must be vigilant. You must choose carefully what you read, what you watch, who you listen to. Because everything you allow in plants a seed, and those seeds will grow. Imagine a farmer who complains that his field is full of weeds but refuses to plant good seed. He can pull the weeds all day, but if he never plants what he wants, the weeds will always come back. Nature abhors a vacuum. If you do not plant purposefully, life will plant for you, and it will plant weeds. It will plant distraction, fear, conformity. It will plant what everyone else is planting, and most of what everyone else is planting leads to nothing of real worth. This is why you must be deliberate. You must choose your thoughts as carefully as a farmer chooses his seed. You must cultivate them daily. You must water them with study, with action, with discipline. You must protect them from the pests of fear and the drought of laziness. And if you do, you will one day harvest exactly what you planted. But most people will never do this work. They will say it sounds too simple, or too hard, or they will say they don't have time. But time is not the issue. Every person has the same 24 hours. The issue is priority. The issue is choice. The 5% make the choice to take responsibility for their minds. The 95% do not. That is the difference. Now let's talk about conformity, because this is one of the great traps that keeps people stuck in mediocrity. Conformity is doing what everyone else does without knowing why. It is adopting the beliefs, habits, and limitations of the crowd without question. Most people do this their entire lives. They go to work because everyone else does. They buy things they don't need to impress people they don't even like. They choose careers they don't care about because it's what's expected. They think the way they're told to think. They live in fear of standing out, of being different, of being judged, and they call this safety. But it is not safe. It is the riskiest way to live, because conformity leads to stagnation. It leads to regret. It leads to waking up one day and realizing you never lived your own life at all. Think of the people you admire most. Were they conformists? Or did they choose their own path? Did they do what was expected? Or did they do what was necessary? The truth is, all progress depends on the nonconformist, on the one who is willing to think differently, who is willing to question assumptions, who is willing to risk being misunderstood, because only by breaking free of the herd can you discover what you are truly capable of. You see, the 5% do not fear being different. They fear being the same. They know that if they want a different result, they must choose a different path. They know that success requires standing alone at times, making decisions that others will not understand, persisting when others quit, believing in themselves when no one else does. This is not easy. It is not comfortable, but it is necessary, because the world will always try to pull you back into mediocrity. It will tell you to lower your expectations, to play it safe, to stop dreaming so big. And if you listen, you will live the life they choose for you instead of the life you choose for yourself. So ask yourself right now, where am I conforming? Where am I choosing comfort over growth? Where am I letting the opinions of others dictate my actions? Be honest, because until you see it, you cannot change it. And change is the price of admission to the 5%. If you want to be among the few who truly live, who truly achieve, who truly leave a mark, you must be willing to do what most will not. You must think for yourself. You must act for yourself. You must choose for yourself. It starts today. It starts now. It starts with a simple decision. I will no longer be part of the 95% who let life happen to them. I will be among the 5% who make life happen. Most people underestimate the power of a single idea to transform their entire life. They think change requires a miracle, a sudden windfall, or some extraordinary act of luck. But the truth is that your future will be shaped by the ideas you choose to accept and act upon today. It is the quiet decision made in private that determines your destiny more than any public triumph. You see, life does not change in an instant, though results can appear suddenly. Life changes when your thinking changes, because your thinking drives your choices, and your choices repeated over time create your results. The reason 95% of people fail is not that they are incapable. It is that they never take control of the ideas that govern them. They allow others to think for them. They let society, television, social media, their peers, even strangers dictate what is possible for them. They adopt ideas about limitation, fear, and scarcity without question. And as a result, they live within those limits, not because they are real, but because they never challenge them. It's not intelligence that separates the successful from the unsuccessful. It's not natural talent. It's the willingness to examine one's own beliefs and choose them deliberately. Because beliefs are not facts. They are decisions. They are choices. And most people never realize they have the power to choose differently. Consider the idea of wealth. Many people believe that money is scarce, that it is hard to earn, that only the lucky or the dishonest have plenty. And so they live accordingly. They avoid risk. They fear investing in themselves. They expect little from life and therefore receive little. But wealth is not reserved for the few. It is reserved for the prepared. For those who understand that money is simply an exchange of value, that the more valuable you become to others, the more you will receive in return. But becoming valuable requires investment, not in the stock market, not in real estate, but in yourself. in your skills, your mindset, your character. Because you cannot offer what you do not possess. You cannot lead others where you have not gone. And you cannot expect the world to give you more than you have become. This is the great secret the 5% understand. They see themselves as the asset. They ask not, how can I get more? But how can I become more? They study when others are idle. They practice when others quit. They reflect when others distract themselves. And over time they develop a depth of character, a mastery of skill, and a clarity of vision that the world cannot help but reward. But most will not do this work. They will say it is too slow, too hard, too uncertain. They will look for shortcuts and get rich quick schemes. They will hope to win the lottery of life. And even if by chance they stumble into success without the character to sustain it, they will lose it just as quickly. Because you cannot hold what you have not earned, not in any lasting way. If you want to be among the 5%, you must invest in yourself daily. Not once, not occasionally, but as a lifelong commitment. Because growth is not an event, it is a process, and that process must be chosen anew, each day. You must become a student of life. Read good books, listen to great thinkers, surround yourself with people who challenge you to rise higher. Reflect on your own actions and attitudes. Ask yourself daily, am I moving closer to the person I want to become, or am I drifting further away? Most people never ask these questions. They are too busy, too distracted, too afraid of what they might find. But without self-examination, there can be no self-improvement. And without self-improvement, there can be no true success. Think about this. Every great achievement began as a single idea in someone's mind. The electric light, the airplane, the telephone, the computer. None of these existed until someone believed they could, and then acted upon that belief, despite doubt, despite failure, despite ridicule. The world changes because of those who dare to think differently and persist until their vision becomes reality. And so it is with your own life. Your future does not exist yet. It is waiting for you to shape it, to decide what it will be, to believe in a possibility that does not yet exist and act until it does. This is the work of creation. This is the privilege of being human. But it is also a responsibility, because if you refuse to choose, the world will choose for you. If you do not plant seeds of greatness, the weeds of mediocrity will fill your mind by default. If you do not decide what you want, you will live someone else's plan for you. And rarely will that plan serve your highest good. This is why I say the best investment you will ever make is in yourself. Because you are the one constant in your life. Circumstances will change, the economy will change, technology will change. But you will always be there, making choices, taking actions, reaping results. If you improve yourself, you improve your capacity to handle anything that comes. You expand your ability to create value, to solve problems, to lead others. And as you do, your life will inevitably rise to meet the level of who you have become. Let me be clear, this is not easy. It requires discipline, it requires honesty, it requires the courage to admit you do not know everything, and the humility to learn. It requires patience because growth is rarely quick and never linear. But it is worth it, because the rewards are not just material, they are internal. The confidence that comes from knowing you can rely on yourself, the peace that comes from living in alignment with your values, the joy of realizing your potential. You see, success is not a destination. It is a journey of becoming, and that journey never ends. The 5% understand this. They do not rest on past achievements. They do not stop growing because they have made it. They know that to stop growing is to start dying, and so they remain students. They remain humble. They remain hungry. Ask yourself now, am I investing in myself, truly, or am I hoping the world will reward me for doing what is easy, for doing what is comfortable, for doing what everyone else does? If you want more, you must become more. That is the rule. That is the truth, and it will not change to suit you. You must change to meet it. And so I challenge you today, make the decision to take responsibility for your own growth, the decision to invest in yourself daily, the decision to think for yourself, to act for yourself, to choose for yourself. Because if you do, you will no longer be among the 95% who hope. You will be among the 5% who achieve. There is a reason so many people fail to rise above mediocrity, even when they claim to want success. It is because they do not understand or respect the principle of discipline. Discipline is the bridge between intention and result. It is what turns goals into achievements, dreams into realities. Without it, the best intentions are worthless. Without it, talent is wasted. Without it, potential dies unborn. Most people see discipline as a burden, something harsh and punishing. But that is a misunderstanding. Discipline is not punishment. It is self-respect. It is the act of caring enough about your own future to do what is necessary today. It is the recognition that while you cannot control everything in life, you can control your actions. And that is enough, because your actions repeated over time shape your destiny. Think about the great performers in any field. The master musician, the champion athlete, the accomplished entrepreneur. Do you think they relied on talent alone? No. Talent may have given them a head start, but discipline carried them across the finish line. Talent is a gift. Discipline is a choice. And it is a choice that must be made over and over again. This is why the 5% separate themselves. They are not more fortunate, they are more willing. They are willing to do what most people will not. They are willing to say no to distraction so they can say yes to purpose. They are willing to practice when others are resting, to study when others are entertaining themselves, to invest when others are spending, to sacrifice today for a better tomorrow. The 95% live for comfort. They live for the path of least resistance. They look for shortcuts, they avoid pain, and in doing so they choose a different kind of pain, the pain of regret. Because while discipline requires sacrifice now, it delivers freedom later. But the lack of discipline delivers ease now and change you later. Consider the man who will not discipline his spending. He enjoys the thrill of buying, the comfort of instant gratification. But soon he is buried in debt, working for creditors instead of himself. Or the employee who will not discipline his work habits. He does just enough to get by. He avoids challenge. He shuns responsibility. He is passed over for promotion, locked in a cycle of frustration, blaming the company, the economy, anyone but himself. Contrast this with the person who chooses discipline. She budgets carefully, she invests early, she may go without certain luxuries today, but over time she gains security, freedom, choice. Or the professional who shows up early, stays late, learns constantly. He makes himself indispensable. He creates opportunity by being someone people want to work with, someone they can rely on. Discipline is not glamorous. It is rarely praised in the moment. In fact, it is often mocked. People will call you obsessed, rigid, boring. But in the end, those same people will envy your results. They will ask how you did it. And the answer will be simple: daily discipline. The small choices made consistently, long after the mood to make them has passed. You see, discipline is a form of faith. It is acting today in service of a result you cannot yet see. It is trusting that your effort will pay off even when there is no immediate evidence. And that is why so few people practice it. Because it requires patience, it requires belief, it requires the ability to delay gratification. This is one of the most important differences between the 5% and the 95%. The 95% demand to see results immediately. If they don't lose weight in a week, they quit the diet. If they don't get rich in a month, they abandon the business. If they don't master a skill instantly, they give up learning. They cannot endure the long, quiet season of preparation, and so they reap nothing. The 5% understand the law of the harvest. They know you must plant before you can harvest. You must wait for the seed to grow. You must tend to it daily, even when nothing seems to be happening. They know that the work you do in obscurity is what builds the foundation for visible success. Ask yourself honestly, do you practice discipline, or do you only act when it is easy? Do you follow through on your commitments even when you don't feel like it? Or do you let feelings dictate your actions? Because the person who is slave to his feelings will never achieve anything great. But the person who can act despite his feelings will accomplish what others consider impossible. Discipline is not about being perfect. It is about being consistent. You will stumble, you will fail, but the disciplined person gets back up. He corrects his course, he keeps going, because he knows the path is not straight. It is filled with challenges designed to test his commitment, and he welcomes those challenges because they make him stronger. I want you to remember something. Every act of discipline is a statement about who you are becoming. Every time you choose to do what is necessary instead of what is easy, You strengthen the muscle of character, and over time that character will carry you places. Talent alone never could. If you want to be among the 5%, you must fall in love with discipline. You must see it not as a punishment, but as a gift, as the tool that carves you into the person capable of living your dreams. Because your goals are not waiting for the version of you that exists today. They are waiting for the version of you who is forged in the fires of disciplined action. So today, make the choice to be different, the choice to act when others delay, the choice to be consistent when others are sporadic, the choice to keep promises to yourself when no one is watching. Because that is what will separate you, that is what will carry you, that is what will make you part of the rare few who do not just dream of a better life, but create it. If there is one truth that must be understood by anyone who hopes to rise above mediocrity, it is this: you cannot escape the law of cause and effect. It is as real and as relentless as gravity itself. Every action you take sets a cause in motion, and every cause has its effect. Success is not magic. It is not luck. It is the inevitable result of specific causes, of choices made day after day, often in silence and without applause. Failure is not a mystery either. It is the natural consequence of neglect, of avoidance, of making excuses instead of making plans. Most people refuse to see this. They would rather believe that life is random, that fortune or misfortune is handed out by some invisible force playing favorites. It's more comfortable that way because it means they don't have to change, they don't have to examine their habits, their thinking, their choices. But the 5% know better. They understand that life is always responding to them. It is reflecting back the sum total of their decisions, and so they become intentional. They choose their actions with care. They know that if they want a different effect, they must change the cause. Think about the farmer again. He does not curse the soil for failing to produce a crop when he never planted seed. He does not complain that weeds grow if he neglects the field. He understands that nature does not play favorites. It simply delivers what is sown. This is how your mind works. This is how your life works. What you sow in thought, you reap in experience. What you neglect, you lose. What you tend to with discipline and faith, you grow. Now consider this. Most people are sowing seeds every day, but they do it unconsciously. They allow worry, fear, anger, and resentment to dominate their thinking. They plant seeds of scarcity, of limitation, of hopelessness, and then they are shocked when these weeds choke out every possibility of abundance. They blame circumstances, they blame other people, they blame fate. But they never look at the real source, their own minds. The 5% do. They watch their thoughts carefully, not because it is easy, but because they know it is necessary. They know that their dominant thoughts become beliefs. Their beliefs drive their decisions. Their decisions shape their results, and so they make a study of themselves. They ask, what am I thinking? Is it serving me? Is it leading me where I want to go? If not, they change it. This is the essence of self-mastery. It is not controlling the world, it is controlling yourself. It is realizing that while you may not choose every circumstance, you always choose your response. And in that response lies your freedom. Most people surrender that freedom without a fight. They react instead of respond. They let emotions rule them. They let other people's opinions steer them. They move through life like puppets, their strings pulled by anything and everything except their own will. If you want to be among the 5%, you must cut those strings. You must become the master of your own mind. That means developing awareness. Awareness of your thoughts, your emotions, your habits. Because what you are unaware of controls you. But what you become aware of, you can change. Awareness is the first step to freedom. The second is responsibility. You must accept that you are the cause, not the government, not the economy, not your parents, not your boss. You. This is hard for many people to accept because it destroys their excuses. It leaves them with no one to blame. But it also gives them incredible power, because if you are the cause, you can choose new causes. You can set new forces in motion. You can change your life. Ask yourself now, what causes am I setting in motion each day? What habits am I cultivating? What thoughts am I entertaining? What words am I speaking? What actions am I taking? Are they leading me toward my goals or away from them? Are they aligned with who I want to become? Or are they reflections of fear, laziness, or conformity? These are uncomfortable questions, but the 5% are willing to ask them. The 95% avoid them. They would rather stay distracted, entertained, numbed, anything to avoid looking in the mirror. But the mirror is where change begins. This is why I say success is not something you pursue. It is something you attract by the person you become. You do not chase success. You grow into it. You earn it through alignment between thought, word, and deed. You become a person who naturally produces successful results because of who you are. And that requires discipline. Yes, but even more, it requires honesty. It requires the willingness to see yourself clearly, without deception, without justification. To admit where you are falling short. To confront your weaknesses. To acknowledge your fears. Because only then can you change them. The 5% are not better than you. They are not chosen or blessed in some exclusive way. They simply live by different rules. They have accepted truths that others deny. They have made peace with the fact that life will give them exactly what they demand of themselves and nothing more. And so they demand more. They hold themselves to higher standards. They take responsibility for their results. They own their failures instead of hiding from them. And in doing so, they earn the right to their successes. Consider this: every great achievement you admire in the world was once impossible to the person who created it. The cure for disease, the flight of an airplane, the landing on the moon, all impossible, until someone decided to make it possible. That decision is what separates the ordinary from the extraordinary. The willingness to say, "I will find a way," even when there is no evidence yet, even when there is only doubt, only obstacles. The 95% see the obstacle and stop. The 5% see the obstacle and ask, "How can I use this? What can I learn? How can this serve me?" And in asking better questions, they get better answers. In taking ownership of their response, they create new outcomes. You can be one of them, not by waiting for life to get easier, but by getting stronger. Not by hoping for fewer problems, but by developing better skills. Not by blaming the world for your circumstances, but by accepting your role as creator of your own experience. That is the invitation before you now, to accept responsibility, to take control, to choose the causes that will produce the effects you desire. Because you cannot escape the law. You can only decide which side of it you want to be on. There is another principle the 5% understand deeply, a truth so powerful that once you grasp it, it will forever change how you see your life. Clarity of purpose. Most people wander through life without a clear sense of what they truly want. They say they want success, but they cannot define it. They say they want happiness, but they have no vision of what that would look like. They want more money, but they cannot tell you why or what they would do with it. They drift, hoping to arrive somewhere meaningful without ever choosing the destination. But the 5% know exactly where they are going. They have a clear, definite purpose. They can articulate it, they can see it in their mind's eye, they can feel it in their bones. This clarity is not an accident. It is the result of deliberate thought, of taking the time to sit quietly, to ask hard questions, to wrestle with confusion and uncertainty until a clear answer emerges. They know that you cannot hit a target you cannot see. You cannot reach a destination you never chose. Most people resist this work because it is uncomfortable. It requires them to admit what they truly want. And that can be frightening. Because once you name your goal, you also see the gap between where you are and where you want to be. You see the work required, the sacrifices needed, the risks involved. It is easier to keep things vague, to say, "I just want to be happy," without defining what happiness means. Or, "I want to be successful," without deciding what success looks like to you personally. But vagueness is the enemy of progress. The mind cannot pursue what it cannot define. Clarity of purpose is magnetic. It attracts the resources, opportunities, and people you need. It sharpens your focus, making you immune to distractions. It fuels your persistence because you know what you are fighting for. It transforms obstacles from barriers into stepping stones. Without it, you are like a ship without a rudder, pushed and pulled by every current, every storm, every opinion of others. With it, you become unstoppable. The 95% allow the world to define their goals for them. They choose careers based on what is safe, what is expected, what is popular. They make decisions to avoid judgment or disappointment. They listen to the voices around them instead of the voice within. And in doing so, they betray themselves. They live lives of quiet desperation, forever wondering why they feel unfulfilled, even when they seem to have everything. The 5% reject this path. They dare to ask, "What do I truly want?" Not what my parents want for me, Not what society says I should want, not what my friends expect, but what do I want? What makes my heart beat faster? What fills me with excitement and fear at the same time? What would I pursue even if no one applauded, even if everyone doubted me? These are not easy questions. They require brutal honesty. They require you to strip away pretense and admit your deepest desires, but they are necessary, because until you answer them, you are living someone else's life, and you will never know what you are truly capable of. Ask yourself now, if I could not fail, what would I do? If there were no limits, what would I create? Who would I become? Let those questions sink in. Write down the answers. Refine them until they are clear. And then commit, because clarity without commitment is worthless. It is daydreaming, it is fantasy. Commitment is the act of saying, this is what I want, and I will do whatever it takes to get there. It is the decision to burn the ships, to leave no retreat, to close the door on half measures and excuses. The 5% commit fully. They do not dabble, they do not try. They do, they decide, and then they act in alignment with that decision every single day. They build habits that support their purpose. They make choices that reinforce it. They say no to what doesn't serve it. They endure what others will not because they see what others cannot. This is why they seem so confident, so focused, so sure of themselves. It is not arrogance, it is clarity. It is the certainty that comes from knowing exactly what you want and being willing to pay the price to get it. And yes, there is a price. There is always a price. Success demands sacrifice. It demands time, energy, and effort. It demands that you give up comfort, ease, and sometimes even approval. But the 5% know that the price of not pursuing their purpose is far greater. It is the price of regret, of knowing they settled, of knowing they betrayed themselves. You must decide which price you are willing to pay, the pain of discipline or the pain of regret, the discomfort of growth or the comfort of stagnation, the judgment of others or the disappointment of yourself. Because you cannot avoid paying. You can only choose where you pay and what you receive in return. Clarity of purpose is not just about goals, it is about identity, about deciding who you want to be in this world, about living in alignment with your values, about building a life you can be proud of, a life that reflects the truth of who you are. This is the work of the 5%. It is not easy, but it is worth it. All fear wise is dread to be in his worths. So I ask you now, what do you want? Really want? Don't settle for vague answers. Don't hide behind excuses. Don't worry about what others will think. Be honest, be bold, be specific. Write it down, commit to it, and then act in alignment with it every single day. Because until you do, you will remain among the 95% who drift. But once you do, you will join the 5% who decide, who create, who live. There is a power available to every person who seeks to rise above mediocrity, yet it is ignored or dismissed by the vast majority. It is the power of persistence. Persistence is the steady, unyielding commitment to continue moving forward despite obstacles, despite failure, despite the many voices that say you cannot succeed. It is the refusal to give up when results are slow or when the path becomes difficult. It is the willingness to keep going long after the initial excitement has faded. Why do 95% of people fail? Because they quit too soon. They start strong but lack staying power. They love the idea of success but hate the work, the setbacks, the grind. The moment they encounter resistance, they begin to question themselves. The first failure convinces them they were never meant for more. The first rejection shatters their fragile confidence. They see the mountain ahead and decide it is too steep to climb. And so they stop. They settle, they accept less than they are capable of, and in doing so, they guarantee their failure. The 5% think differently. They understand that setbacks are not signals to stop, but invitations to grow. They see failure not as evidence of their inadequacy, but as feedback about what needs to change. They know rejection is not a verdict, but a test of resolve. They embrace the long game. They do not expect immediate results. They are willing to wait, to learn, to adapt. They are not driven by feelings or mood. They are governed by commitment. Consider the story of any great achievement. It is always the story of persistence. Thomas Edison failed thousands of times before perfecting the light bulb. Each failure taught him something valuable. He once said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." That is the mindset of the 5%. They do not fear failure because they do not define themselves by it. They see it as part of the process. Or think of Abraham Lincoln, defeated in elections, bankrupted in business, faced with deep personal tragedy, yet he refused to give up. He kept going. He learned, he grew, and he became one of the most respected leaders in history. Not because the path was easy, but because he would not quit. This is the essence of persistence. It is not about never falling, it is about always getting back up. Most people overestimate what they can do in a day and underestimate what they can do in a year. They expect rapid transformation, instant gratification. When results don't appear quickly, they become discouraged. They switch goals, they change direction. They give up. The 5% understand that meaningful change takes time. They plant seeds today knowing the harvest is in the future. They invest effort now knowing the payoff will come later. They trust the process even when they cannot see the outcome. Persistence requires faith. Faith that your efforts matter even when you see no proof. Faith that tomorrow can be better than today if you keep working. Faith in yourself, even when others doubt you. This is not blind optimism, it is disciplined belief. It is the decision to act in alignment with your goals, regardless of circumstances. It is saying, I will not stop, I will not give in, I will not give up, and then proving it with your actions. Ask yourself, where have I given up too soon? What dreams did I abandon at the first sign of difficulty? What goals did I let go of because I got tired or bored or scared? Be honest, because awareness is the first step to change. Once you see where you have quit in the past, you can choose differently in the future. You can decide that this time you will persist. Persistence is not about doing the same thing over and over, mindlessly. It is about learning, adapting, improving. It is about staying committed to the goal while remaining flexible in your approach. It is about asking better questions. What can I learn from this? How can I adjust? What resources do I need? Who can help me? The 5% are relentless learners. They use every failure, every obstacle as a teacher. They do not waste suffering. They turn setbacks into stepping stones. Consider the bamboo tree. For years after planting, nothing appears above the soil. To the casual observer, it seems as if nothing is happening. But underground, a complex root system is developing, preparing to support massive growth. Then suddenly, in a matter of weeks, the bamboo shoots up to incredible heights. Was it growing only in those final weeks? No. It was growing the entire time, unseen, preparing. Your dreams are like that. The work you do today may not show results immediately, but it is not wasted. It is preparing you for breakthroughs that will appear sudden to others, but are the result of your persistent effort. Most people will never experience this because they quit during the root-building phase. They abandon their goals when progress is invisible. They say it's not working and move on to something else. And so they live their lives starting over again and again, always planting, never harvesting. The 5% commit. They endure the quiet season, they trust the process, they keep working even when no one notices. And then one day they rise. This is the invitation before you, to choose persistence, to refuse to quit, to keep moving toward your vision, no matter what, to believe in your capacity to grow, to learn, to overcome, to see obstacles not as barriers but as part of the path. Because if you do this, you will separate yourself from the 95% who will never know what they are truly capable of. So ask yourself now, what is so important to me that I will refuse to quit? What goal is worth the pain, the sacrifice, the time? Commit to it. Write it down, read it daily. Take action no matter how small. And when you feel like giving up, remember why you started. Because persistence is not a single act, it is a habit, a way of being, a promise you keep to yourself over and over, until the world has no choice but to yield to your will. There is one final truth that separates the 5% from the 95%, and it may be the most important of all, the understanding that true success is not measured solely by what you achieve for yourself, but by the value you create for others. The most successful people do not ask, what can I get, but what can I give? They do not focus only on accumulation, but on contribution. They know that their rewards in life will always be in direct proportion to the service they render. This is a principle as old as time. It is written in every philosophy, every religion, every code of ethics worth following. It is found in the words, As ye sow, so shall ye reap. But it is not just spiritual advice, it is practical truth. Because the marketplace does not reward need, it rewards value. It rewards solutions. It rewards those who improve the lives of others. The 95% fail to grasp this. They are consumed with taking. They ask, how can I get more money? Without asking, how can I become more valuable? They want higher pay but refuse to improve their skills. They want promotion but avoid responsibility. They want loyalty but do not give it. They want love but do not offer it freely. They want respect without earning it. And so they remain stuck, frustrated that the world does not see their worth when they themselves have refused to develop it. The 5% know better. They understand that the only sustainable way to improve their own circumstances is to improve the circumstances of others. They become students of human need. They ask, what problems can I solve? What desires can I fulfill? How can I make things better? And then they devote themselves to mastering those solutions. They become so good they cannot be ignored. They become the best at what they do, not for ego, but because they know excellence is the price of significance. Consider any great business, any lasting success story. At its heart is service. The company that thrives is the one that serves its customers better than anyone else. The leader who inspires is the one who serves those he leads. The artist who endures is the one who serves the truth, who gives the audience something meaningful, something lasting. Service is not subservience. It is not weakness. It is the highest form of strength, because it requires empathy, understanding, commitment, and the humility to put others first. This is why so few people ever experience it. Service requires giving up the small self in service of something larger. It demands sacrifice of time, comfort, and sometimes even recognition. The 95% fear this sacrifice. They cling to what is easy, what is immediately rewarding. They ask, what's in it for me? The 5% ask, how can I help? How can I create? How can I leave something behind that matters? If you want to join them, you must shift your focus outward. You must stop measuring success only by what you gain and start measuring it by what you give. This does not mean you neglect your own needs. On the contrary, by serving others at the highest level, you ensure your own needs are met, because the world always rewards those who solve its problems. It pays those who ease its pains. It honors those who make life richer, simpler, more beautiful. This is the law of compensation. You cannot break it. You can only align with it or fight against it. If you choose alignment, you will prosper in ways you cannot yet imagine. If you choose to fight it, to take without giving, to demand without contributing, you will struggle endlessly. You may experience fleeting wins, but they will not last, because they are not built on a solid foundation. Ask yourself now, what do I offer the world? How do I serve? Whose life is better because I am in it? These are not comfortable questions, but they are the only ones that matter, because at the end of your life, you will not measure your worth by what you owned, but by what you gave, by the difference you made, by the lives you touched. The 5% live with this awareness daily. They do not see work as drudgery, but as opportunity. Opportunity to express their gifts, to solve problems, to build relationships, to create value. They pour themselves into what they do, not for applause, but for impact. And in return, they are rewarded. Not always immediately, but inevitably. This is the final invitation to move beyond selfish ambition and into meaningful contribution, to see your work, whatever it is, as a chance to serve, to make every interaction, every product, every idea, something that leaves people better than you found them. This is the way to lasting success. This is the way to join the 5%. And so as we conclude this journey together, I want you to reflect on everything we have discussed, the choice to take responsibility, the commitment to discipline, the clarity of purpose, the power of persistence, and now the principle of service. These are not theories. They are the rules of life. You ignore them at your peril. You embrace them for your gain and the gain of everyone you touch. Decide today to live by these principles. Decide to leave behind the habits of the 95%. Decide to join the 5% not just in wealth or success, but in character, in purpose, in service. Because the world needs more people who will choose this path. It needs more leaders, more creators, more servants willing to give their best so others can rise. If you found value in this message, if you believe these ideas can help others as they have helped you, share this. Encourage someone else to listen. Let's spread this truth, not for fame, not for profit, but because the world will be better if more people choose to live this way. Because in the end, the best measure of your success will be the lives you changed, and when you dedicate yourself to that mission, you will discover what the 5% already know, that you have not just succeeded, you have lived.